we're back. So that was we learned a bit about what the kosher meat experience is all about. But another interesting thing in the Oak Ridge neighborhood is these Langara Gardens. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's on between 57th and 54th, just west of Canby Street, and there could be a potential redevelopment there. It's actually right across the street from 57th from Pearson Dogwood Lands, which are also under potential development. But in any case, Langara Gardens is 4 residential towers, each 18 stories, plus a lot of low-rise townhouses and such. I think in total there's 605 residential units. But anyway, right now it's undergoing a process where they create a policy statement. The city creates a policy statement for it, which determines what the density, transportation issues, all sorts of issues related to development could be through a rezoning application. And there's a lot of development obviously going along on the Canby corridor because of the Canada line. So this is sort of one of the next big developments potentially in line. We don't know what it's going to look like because they're just creating the policy statement to see what it could look like.
Okay, so 2 major developments on the horizon for Langara and the Oak Ridge area. So we have a lot of changes going on in the Oak Ridge neighborhood. For my Oak Ridge story, instead of talking about the neighborhood itself, I spoke to a guy who went elsewhere. There's a fellow named Chris Cherwinski, and he works for the United Nations Food Program, and he recently went to North Korea. No, I know about you. I've always been curious. I mean, a lot of people are curious about North Korea.
Who isn't curious about North Korea? So it's fascinating that somebody actually went there and could actually see it.
The way we found out about it is we have this thing in the paper we run every now and then called Exotic Courier, where people go on vacation. In fact, if you're watching this now, the next time you go on vacation, what you should do is bring along your copy of the Courier and take a picture of yourself, preferably showing our front page logo, and send it in to us. I mean, it's a great way for us to see where people are going. But generally, when people bring it along, it tends to be Mexico or Hawaii. And these aren't fascinating places, but we rarely get to go somewhere as interesting as North Korea. And this gentleman, he was able to travel around by himself quite a bit because he'd worked with the United Nations, providing a lot of food. They knew him and trusted him. He gave him quite a bit of carte blanche to travel around the country by himself.
And typically one is given a handler, aren't they, to travel around?
Yeah, well, that's what he said. I mean, basically, if you and I were to go to Korea, I mean, North Korea, or the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, not to be confused with South Korea. Although, basically, if you went there, you would have a government handler. I mean, if you wanted to go somewhere, they would take you along. I mean, also, as reporters, you're not supposed to go there. I mean, if you go, you're not there to report on things. I mean, this is a country where obviously a lot of interesting things are happening. And this is what I found really interesting. Sorry if I'm dominating this a bit because I'm on the one word. But this guy was there in December, which is when the North Korean government launched their satellite. Now, of course, that drew a lot of interesting attention because a lot of people speculate, well, it's not really a satellite. It's the same technology that they use for interballistic nuclear missiles, and people are a bit worried about this country having nuclear missiles. So this guy was in this diplomatic compound having dinner with people, and watching this live happen on TV. And so the waitress, they're like, "Oh, are you happy for us? We've got this." And he's sort of like, "No, we're not really very happy at all." But it's not good. But and that was the other thing too. I mean, this gentleman, he's traveled all around the world. He's been to China, he's been to Russia, he's been to all kinds of different African countries, Madagascar, and he was saying, what he found really interesting about North Korea is people are really, yay, government, our government is the best, and he found it really hard to tell whether that's for real or whether that's done just because people are terrified of their government.
I noticed you also, I believe, embedded in your story an interesting video that he had pointed out of female traffic guards, was it not?
Yes. If you're unaware of this, the female traffic guards in North Korea and Pyongyang are kind of a big thing. They don't have traffic lights in the city, and it's quite a big city. So what they have instead are these rather famous, world-renowned traffic cops. So you have these women in these very stern-looking uniforms, and they're up there, they're using their arms and talking around. It's really kind of a thing.
I'm sure everyone should go and look at the video because it's really fascinating.
I believe we have a video link for that too, so we'll throw that into the mix as well. But this might not be news to some of our Chinese viewers. I mean, he was telling me, of course, the Chinese are typically the biggest visitors to North Korea. I mean, they're right next door. They're kind of their financial benefactors in a lot of ways. And he was saying, a lot of the other tourists he met there were all generally Chinese. I mean, you've got the tomb of Chairman Mao's son, who died in the Korean War, is there, and well, it's right next door. Why wouldn't you go? But look, I think that's about all the time we have for now. But please tune in next week, and we'll blather on about whatever else is going on this week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
感谢收看今天的大温故事，我们下期再见。